Welcome to Day Zero Update for August 17th, 2025. I'm your host, Chris Elogi.
I'm Brandon Perkins. And Dan Red Victoria will be joining us shortly.
Yeah, he is finishing up his little trip that he's on, and so we'll hopefully see him not too far from now, but we still got a plenty big show here. We got a bunch of games announcing for September, a bunch of things to look forward to. We got one game that is shutting down and technically come to new platforms to replace it, as we see the limitations of the previous gen kind of holding some of these games back. We got some games, or one game is getting delayed, and a couple of interesting new announcements here, as well as a bunch of industry news, including a weird update for a game that's part of the culture war in China.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that, the weird thing going on there.
Yeah, and it's it's one that is very kind of Chinese in nature, involving sort of like how they treat like historical figures over there.
Yeah.
But it's kind of complicated, but we'll get to it.
Yeah. But yeah, it seems like Dan Rib's here now.
Yeah, Dan Rib's here.
Maybe.
I am. Yep. Hello, guys.
Hey.
There we go.
But yeah, we'll get to what we've been playing here, and I'll kick it off. I have been playing a little bit of Madden 26. I got a code for that. I have been kind of messing around with it a little bit, and Madden's always bad to play right away because the rosters are not set for any of these teams since they're still in the preseason. So I'm always kind of like, I want to play, but I don't want to play because I don't know which of these players are going to actually stick with the teams. So I did make my customary changes to Deshaun Watson, where I took all of his stats and made them 0 and cut him from the Cleveland Browns to get him the fuck out of here, which is always fun to do. And I kind of immediately, since they have 5 other quarterbacks on their roster, I traded Kenny Pickett and Huntley, I forget what his first name is, traded them for draft picks, basically. So kind of whittled it down to the 3 like viable quarterbacks I think they have right now, which is the incredibly old man, Joe Flacco, and the 2 rookies they just drafted. But yeah, I played one game so far in the season. I skipped all the preseason games and kind of just made my cuts as I did here. Played one game, and I do like the way that they, instead of just constantly working on the like more advanced passing system, they kind of added a little bit extra to the classic system and kind of made it a little more of a touch pass kind of system that you can use that works out pretty well from what I've seen so far. Otherwise, everything feels pretty solid for this. Defense feels pretty solid. So maybe one of my issues is that it seems like it's going to be, if I knew what the hell I was doing on the kick blocks, field goal blocks kind of stuff, I could get blocks constantly. But because I don't know what I'm doing, I just have a guy that gets free pretty easily and have gotten at least one roughing the kicker on that. That was unfortunate. But I managed to win my first game fairly easily, and I'm playing on like the second easiest difficulty, so I'm not exactly expecting to have too much trouble. But yeah, that's been pretty decent so far. I would say maybe the other weird thing is I feel like this is Madden 26 and they still can't display like half sacks in the like the player of the week kind of stuff areas because I had Myles Garrett get 3.5 sacks and everything that wasn't the like player stats stuff, was just saying 3 sacks. And I feel like it's, for as much as they're making inroads on making the presentation feel part of a league wide thing with the like halftime uh like break showing plays from other games. There's like a recap that you can see when you're back in the franchise menu that can show you how a few games turned out with some plays there. Um, Being able to not show full numbers for stats just seems like one of those things that should be an easier fix. Maybe it isn't. Though I also found it funny they gave uh was I think on the NFC side the offensive player of the week was the guy that lost to the what did he lose to? I think Green Bay. Um, Jordan Love seemed to have a better game, but they gave it to what's his face, Jared Goff, for some reason. But little small things like that are kind of annoying. But yeah, that's been Madden. Not really too much to say right now because I've barely started doing anything in it. They do seem to have a lot of bullshit between games that you can do, like practice mini games and all this other kind of shit that I just kind of wanted to simulate. Just like, how do you deal with this crap? Even the scouting stuff, it's like I'll just draft guys when I get to the draft. I don't want to scout guys and have to know their full potential and all that. But yeah, there's that. These next two games I put in the category of nonsense roguelikes, because they are games that, if I describe it, they sound like the the gameplay is just complete nonsense, and it's because they are. They seem to be intended to be that. First up here is a game called Merge Maestro. This is on mobile and PC, and I think on Steam it's $3 at most, so not a terribly expensive game. But the main like gameplay loop is that you are dealing with this 4x4 grid that you're filling with these tokens that initially are mostly numbers 1 through 8. Those are sort of the ranks of them. You merge 2 1s to get a 2, 2 2s to get a 3, that kind of thing. And as you go with each of these waves, I think it's 15 waves for at least all the runs I've been doing is the max, where you face the boss. You get enemies coming in to fight you, and initial ones have like 1 or 2 hit points to them. And between waves, you're picking tokens to fill those spots 1 through 8, and they have specific numbers to them. And so, initially you're going to be picking ones that have attack capabilities to attack the enemies that are coming in. You get a queue of 4 enemies that can potentially be on the verge of attacking, but if they're not shaking, they're not about to attack. But you are dealing with all your tokens here, merging them. If you kill all your enemies before you finish the 4 turns for a wave, or for a round of a wave, you can just place tokens or start merging stuff, depending on what they have to them. The tokens have a lot of different descriptions for them, things they'll do when when you put them on your grid, when you merge them, when they get destroyed. There might be like 1 or 2 other verbs that they use for that stuff, and you're kind of trying to find a good layout or loadout of 8 tokens that will help you get to the end of the game and take out enemies, and eventually take out the boss to finish a run. I've had 1 successful run. I don't know that I think I've had 2 successful runs on the easiest difficulty. So they have a thing where it shows you all the things you've unlocked. There's difficulties, I think 4 or 6 of them. And from there you get different perks or different like things that they make it tough with. Like I think the second difficulty, all the enemies have some sort of perk to them. So some might spawn in and spawn other enemies with them if there's room. Others might have things that will negate your first attack. A variety of things that they can do. Like typically, the boss will have something that it can attack, even if it's not at the front of the line, kind of thing. But you are, trying to devise all these different loadouts that work out well and get you through to the end. And sometimes things will happen. They're just complete nonsense from what I understand of it so far.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, a lot of these tokens are emoji style designs.
Mm-hmm.
So fairly kind of simple things to look at. But yeah, if I show you like a screenshot of something, you'll just be like, I have no clue what's going on here based on this screenshot. So that's been pretty fun. I've got a few hours into it, so I'm still kind of getting the hang of it. But I'm enjoying it so far.
Mm-hmm.
For a lot of the nonsense that's going on here. So there's that. The other game I've been playing is one called Nubby's Number Factory. That is a $5 game. Yeah, $5. I think this is made by one person, and it very much looks like it. It has kind of a '90s internet kind of look to it. A lot of what it's got going on here.
Mm-hmm.
And that one, you are almost got like a Peggle or pachinko kind of style to it, where you've got this grid of blocks that these pegs can spawn into, and you are launching Nubby himself into the grid and trying to hit, pegs to get a certain amount of points to get to the next round,
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. And if you beat your goal, it'll often throw more pegs into it, and so the numbers merge and get bigger. If you can manage to wipe out the entire grid of pegs, then you will double the points you had for that round, which makes it easier to obviously hit your goal. But after you do a few rounds, you start getting to the point where you can pick up perks and all this kind of stuff. I'm trying to think of what you would even call them. There's kind of these items that you put in your loadout bar at the top of the screen. It goes 1 through 7. I think you initially start with 5 through 7 being locked off. So when you get to the shop, you can buy them off if you have enough coins to pay for them, and you're really getting a lot of nonsense items that do different kinds of things. Some can drop like spikes or do laser attacks to hit those pegs. Bunch of weird things that they can do. And also you want to kind of order them the right way, so it's got a little bit of Balatro in there, because you might get items that will double up what's to the left of them, or maybe do some boost to the items on both sides of them, that kind of stuff. And then you get these like little books that are kind of like perks that can boost things even further. Those can have a variety of things that they can do. And the way you get through this is you kind of go through. I feel like it's like 80 rounds of this thing, at least in the default difficulty, which are based on these characters that you pick. Which you first start off with Tony, who I figure might be the dev with WarioWare style like sunglasses over their eyes. It's got that kind of vibe of some of the FMV stuff in WarioWare, where it's very much like,
Right.
there's 2 frames of animation, and it might be like the guy with his mouth closed and then mouth open kind of stuff. There's a lot of stuff like that, and then you get to some side rounds that'll be like, these are some of these pegs will be covered in boogers, and you hit those and they pop and hit the other pegs and cause a bunch of explosions and a lot of nonsense like that. There's all sorts of weird little rounds you get to, and as you beat the first difficulty, which is just base Tony, you start opening up more, and I got to Squid Tony, which adds more of these squid items you can get, which will basically double up whatever's to the left of them, whatever that item's doing. And so you're kind of trying to build out to a loadout that will try to just break the game. And the game apparently has a means for dealing with that. So we're just like, you've broken the game. Let it just end this nonsense right here, kind of thing. And it's pretty fun. So yeah, it's a game that's hard to describe, but if you start, trying to narrate what you're doing, you realize how stupid it is. So yeah, it's just one of those kind of nonsense games, and made by I think a solo developer. So that's a fun thing to see. I think Merge Maestro is also a small team, because I was looking at their Twitter account. They've only posted on it like once, despite launching a game. I'm like, oh, you guys are busy with things. I don't necessarily have a ton of time to be spending on like social media stuff. So there's that. So yeah, I recommend those if you want games that are just complete nonsense. At least on Steam. And then there's the last one here is Power Wash Simulators. I've been playing some more of that after trying to get the platinum and found out the save is corrupted on PS5. And instead of being like defeated about that, I'm just kind of starting it over again, which is fine. They've added a bunch of free stages, so I have a number of things I can do to get extra money if I need it. So I've been kind of dipping into campaign stuff. I'm on the playground right now, so I'm kind of working my way through that. But when I've been wanting to play some other parts of it, I've played the Final Fantasy VII side DLC stuff. That is also very fun. So enjoying that. Just playing it because I want to get the platinum before the sequel's out, and I don't know that it's out anytime soon, but it seems like it's got to be at some point here. But yeah, that's been pretty much what I've been doing. So how about you, Brandon?
Well, as for me, my primary gaming, because I've been trying to kind of fill the void before, the huge flood of new releases that'll be coming out within the next month or so. As we're going headlong into fall. So one of the things I've been playing a lot of this week is Sly 2, the sequel to the original Sly Cooper. And I've played all 4 of the Sly Cooper games. And I know Chris has too. One of the things that any person who plays the whole Sly Cooper series in total will tell you is the first Sly Cooper game is very, very short. It is fairly linear in design. It's mostly, it's got a fairly simple story where there's there's essentially just 5 bosses, more or less, that you're going up against. Because you're trying to get the pages back for the book and everything. And it's over because it's kind of short, and also because the game is just that damn, intriguing and fun to play. It ends pretty quickly. So when you compare it to its sequel, which is probably a good 5 or 6 times longer than the first game is, you can tell that they're still kind of trying to find ways to make the experience longer, while at the same time, they're also kind of stretching some things out. Sometimes unnecessarily, because they're trying to compensate for the fact that the first game was just so damn short in comparison. So part of that has to do with the fact that, unlike in the first game where, you're like, okay, there's a boss you got to go up against, and here's, their respective world their location you got to be in. That doesn't actually happen in this game. They will actually have like a singular character that will have like 2 or even 3 locations that you have to go to as you slowly foil their schemes and then actually go up and confront them, for the boss fight and all that stuff. And that can, that in and of itself isn't necessarily a problem. But it can be when you also factor in the fact that this is the first game that lets you play as other members of the Cooper gang. So, Sly obviously is still the primary star, but you can also play as Murray and you can also play as Bentley. The issue is that Bentley and Murray are not nearly as nimble or acrobatic as Sly is. So trying to traverse through a lot of these places, especially the really vertical ones, can be a challenge because you're still kind of trying to be stealthy here, sort of. At least as far as Sly and Bentley are concerned, Murray can basically just plow through them without any issue because he's the team's muscle. But he's also somewhat slower than the other guys are. But because of that, it means that you're having to find, additional platforms you can traverse and, play ways that you can bounce up on top of buildings. Whereas, with Sly, it's a lot easier because he can climb up lampposts and he can, swing on bars and things like that. But that's especially an issue with like the third level in this game because it is heavily based around traversal and getting from the bottom to the top and back again. With Sly, it's basically a breeze because he can just, like I said, he can grind on rails, he can, climb under stuff. But again, Bentley and Murray, they can't. They have to either find stuff to jump on or they have to find some sort of trampoline type object that they can use to bounce up. And that can be especially challenging because the games, they tell you where you need to go, but they don't really give you a good idea of how you're actually supposed to get there. And that can be kind of frustrating for some of these characters, not all of them, and for some of these missions in particular. But, other than that, it's it's the Sly Cooper game. They're all amazing, and every one of them is worth playing to the finish. The other thing I have been playing on top of that is the demo for the upcoming game Hell Is Us. This is a game I've been sort of keeping my eye on for a while now. And it's supposed to come out early next month, the 4th of September. And essentially what it is, and first and foremost, I need to get this out of the way because people going into this and seeing some previews and stuff might get the wrong idea. This is not a Souls-like game at all. This is not a Souls-like game. This is a fairly, gameplay-wise, a fairly standard action-adventure type video game. But there are definitely some things that are a bit different from your average action-adventure game that you'll get, especially a third-person game. The first, of course, is the story. The game makes it pretty clear, right off the bat, that even though there are things that seem really familiar, this is not our universe. First and foremost, the guy that you're playing, this guy named Remy, is a soldier, a decorated soldier who, after he leaves the army, he decides to go and become part of the peacekeeping forces for the ON, which is this universe's equivalent of the UN, which right off the bat, that's to tell you, okay, yeah, so this isn't our universe. There's also the whole thing where you start off where there's the interrogation thing that starts right off the bat with the interrogator, and I'll just let anybody who wants to play that game experience that for themselves, just to realize, oh right, this is not our universe. This is a weird world. And his essential sort of story is you're playing this guy, Remy, who was originally part of like I said, soldier, became part of the peacekeeping forces in this little country called Hadia, which has basically been locked in this nasty sectarian conflict for centuries upon centuries up to this point. And up until recently, it had been ruled by this guy named President Maxwell, who was for all intents and purposes, a totalitarian dictator who turned the country into like a walled off sort of hidden kingdom type world where nobody went in and nobody went out, mostly just so he could keep the sectarian violence at the minimum as he could. And then a few years prior, he goes into his office and he blows his head off. So now that he's dead and the government more or less collapsed, the sectarian violence starts up again, and a whole ass civil war starts. And the civil war itself, like I said, it's a sectarian one. It's between these two religious sects. One's called the Sabians, the other is called the Palamists. And these guys absolutely despise each other. And it's not a new hatred either. It's one that goes back a long time. One of the first major areas in this game you go into is this old ruin that's connected to like this tower, and you immediately come across like these murals and like these bits of like text and stuff that is essentially it was essentially manned by a group of Sabians whose whole thing was they wanted to kill all of the Palamists, and they do not make it subtle. You find out that the dungeon that you're in is part of like what is essentially a death camp type complex, but like Middle Ages, and you'll find like piles of bones everywhere and like torture implements, and it's really clear like this is a conflict that goes back a long time, and at this point, it's started up again, and it's basically wrecking the whole country. And the reason Remy is going back in is because he's originally was from this country. He was born in it, but his parents basically put him on like a aid truck or something, and gave him this necklace when he was like 3 or 4 years old, and his mom basically saying, "Don't come back." And so at some point, it just gets to him. He's like, I got to find out what the hell happened. So he goes AWOL, crosses back into Hadia, and immediately finds out that on top of the war, something really awful has happened. He comes across these weird things called limbics, which are these weird, pale-skinned humanoid creatures, with they have like a hole in their faces and like a hole in their torso, and they move in like this weird like stop motion, blink if you miss it, like ballet type manner, and it's really creepy and off-putting. And as it turns out, a lot of them are like keeping this thing that's essentially like a parasite inside of them that will break out and will attack you, essentially acting as like a living weapon. So, what you think is going to be like a solitary fight ends up becoming a 2-on-1 conflict. And you often have to kill the parasites before you can actually get to the limbics themselves to actually finish them off. And they come in various kinds. Eventually what you realize is that something has happened in this country. The game hasn't really, like, the demo doesn't really tell you outright, but it highly suggests that it's got something to do with these ruins that you go into. And eventually, that's more or less like the game's story, at least as far as the demo goes. The demo basically ends when you get to the hometown that his parents are from, and there's it looks like an active demilitarized war zone. But by the and there's a lot of other stuff you'll see too. Like there's this whole sequence where you're going through what looks like a World War I era battlefield, where there's all these trenches everywhere, and there's mortar cannons that are all rusted and overgrown, and you'll find these little craters that look like they were made by mortar fire. And as you're going through the trenches, you'll find diaries and stuff from old soldiers where they're talking about how they they came across a savvy, quote unquote, which I guess is supposed to be like a slur for the Sabians, that where they got like a gold pocket watch or whatever, and they stole it, and they can't wait to show it to like their girlfriends when they get back home after the war ends, and all this stuff. And it's like, again, the thing I'm getting here is that I have this theory that the whole like calamity or whatever it is that's happened to this place is somehow being like fueled by this sectarian conflict, or it might even be like one fuels the other, and it's just a continuous cycle. One creates the other, which in turn helps perpetuate the other. But that's essentially like the story. What really makes this game different from a lot of these action adventure games like this is right off the bat, the developers tell you, yeah, just so you know, there is no map, there are no objective markers. You're going to have to pay attention to all the context clues and the conversations that you find in this game to know where you're going to need to go. And that is like right off the beat. Like from the very end, from the very beginning, you'll come across like this guy who's like holding out in this old house, where he tells you, he's like, okay, look, there were a bunch of like ON soldiers, peacekeeper soldiers that came by. If you want to know where they are, there's like these wood chimes that I've got set up in the woods nearby that I had so that, my sons would not get lost. And if you follow those wood chimes, you'll eventually come across these like trees that are like marked with like white X's, which is like typically what people use when like they're doing like forest clearing or whatever, which essentially implies that there's people around. And eventually you come across, and that's how you eventually come across like where the peacekeepers are and where that dungeon I was talking about shows up. One of the other things this game doesn't communicate you right off the bat, but you kind of figure out later, is you'll come across like a bunch of puzzles in this game. Puzzles and locks and all of these things that require various items that you need to like engage them and then solve them. But you're not going to find them right off the bat. In fact, a lot of times you're not even going to find them in that general area. You will end up finding them somewhere else. The first two like lock puzzles you find in this game, in the demo at least, right off the bat, you'll find them eventually. Like they're in sort of like the area that you're in. But there's a couple of later ones, including one that seems to like actually lead into another major area. The previously mentioned tower that I mentioned is there, and you can go to the tower and you can look at it, but you will not encounter any of the items that'll let you get into the tower. There's like a puzzle there that you need to get there to let you get in. You will not encounter any of those items in this demo. More than likely, you will, if the full game comes out, you will not be able to do that until later on. There's also another lock that's connected to a ruin that's sort of midway through that not nearly as complicated. It's just like, okay, I need like these two things to put them in, and then like a num code or whatever. You will not encounter any of them there either. The game is essentially trying to tell you that, there are all of these puzzles that are all over the place, but you're not going to be able to solve them right off the bat. And in fact, you're probably going to have to look around for a ways in the game before you can even think of doing it. But yeah, just the game is incredibly intriguing. The combat is really good. It has this whole thing where like there's like a rhythm thing to it where every time you're attacking these enemies, and also the one like thing from like Souls-like games they actually do have in this game is that you have a stamina bar that can run out depending on if you're attacking or running around or dodging too much. But unlike in those other Souls-like games, the game, every time you attack in like a sequence, there's like this like white ring that will form around you, and if you end up pushing, I think it's the R1 button, when that shows up, you can actually regain a bunch of health. depending on like the amount of damage you end up inflicting on an enemy. Kind of similar to like what they did like in Bloodborne, where if you like inflict enough damage, and then hit yourself with like the healing power up, it'll like restore a certain amount that's like equal to the amount that you inflicted on enemies. But yeah, about as far as that game goes, that's about all I can say about that. It's definitely got me intrigued, and I'm really liking what I'm seeing. And the other game I've been playing on top of all that, of course, is I'm still playing Void Stranger. I've made some more significant progress. I actually beat the first like major campaign of the game and started the next one, which has a completely new character and more or less the same like sequence of levels, but they've added like new stuff to it, so now it's basically like hard mode. But yeah, that's what I've been playing.
Yeah, as for me, I've been playing a lot of Madden.
Hmm.
I am in a what's it called? An online franchise with a bunch of other freelancers. It hasn't really started yet, but
Hmm.
yeah, Chris mentioned not wanting or having to deal with the rookie scouting. All of that matters just because like typically a franchise lasts around 30 seasons, and I believe they're actually going to be skipping the first season just so that we can actually have an actual off season in our hands. So looking forward to that. That'll start next week. In the meantime, though, I have been playing the regular season franchise mode with my brother, and it's been rather cool to see. As I mentioned last week, a lot of the changes that they've made to college football made their way to Madden, making it a much more solid game. And in fact, I'd go as far as saying like this is the best Madden in years. I'm not ready to put it in 2005 status, but it's definitely up there. Um, One thing that I'm having trouble getting used to, despite the fact that this has been introduced a couple years ago, is the kicking meter. The kicking meter requires you to time it with your accuracy and then go with your power. The problem is because I'm used to the two-click system in previous Maddens, and they actually do still give you the flexibility to choose which one you want. When you're playing online, you have to go with the one that they choose, and unfortunately, it would be the newer one. So my kickoffs are still going out of bounds, which would put the ball on your opponent's side of the 40. And they've also instituted the new kickoff rules where if the ball doesn't land in the landing zone, then you also have to play from the 40-yard line, which, puts the defense at a big disadvantage. So you don't want to do that. But it's also really easy to make that mistake, especially if you're trying to do squib kicks and whatever it may be. And what happens is if you, for example, one thing that a lot of people don't realize is that for the kicking meter, if you uh, take the meter all the way up to the maximum red point, you do what's called an overkick, and oftentimes the overkick doesn't go as far as you want. And when you do that with a squib kick, it's not going to land in the landing zone. I've used good kickers, bad kickers, it doesn't matter. So it's just one thing to definitely keep in mind. And it's just really finicky. One thing with the extra points, for example, is as long as you have your accuracy straight, it doesn't matter how much power you put into your kick because you can just have no line of power at all. But as long as it's accurate, it'll go in. As long as you're kicking an extra point from the actual P18 line versus getting a penalty or something. That'll actually matter. But yeah, the halftime bug is still there. For example, this game has the best halftime show I've seen out of any Madden before it, especially when you're playing in franchise mode. You're able to see highlights from other games, and it's awesome. The problem is, as soon as it's over, the game just freezes, and you have to just, actually reset the game. So it's been a week to this point. We're already past the game's release, which was on Thursday, and they still haven't fixed it. So it's annoying because I actually like watching it, and you have to skip a certain part of it in order to make sure that it works properly, and that's not the way it should work, and that's really unfortunate.
Hmm.
That aside, there is some emphasis on Ultimate Team, like that'll always be a thing. I don't play it, but I do like the fact that they did put some effort into the season passes. Like depending on who your favorite team is, you're able to get some cosmetics that'll make your profiles look good. It's very similar to prestiging in Call of Duty, that kind of thing. It's not something that I'm gonna get involved with, but I do like that customization aspect of it because it really makes the gameplay feel at home. So yeah, really liking Madden so far, and looking forward to playing some more as the season goes on. Moving on, I am nearing the end of a Wheeler World. This game is published by Annapurna, developed by Meshoff, the folks that made Nidhogg. And yeah, this is definitely, their most um, complicated game as far as visuals. Like everything that they've made has been 2D, whereas this game is an open world bike game. And all you really do in this game is just vibe. It's open world, as I mentioned, and all you really do is you just try to unlock certain waypoints so you can see more of the map. And then when you see more of the map, you're able to see a whole lot of bike gangs who you can just go ahead and challenge to races. The races are pretty fun. They have some nice music to vibe along with that as well, and it's just an overall good chill time. There is sort of a quest involved where this bike spirit lost all of his legendary parts, so you have to go through every biome of the map and challenge certain bikers to get your parts back. And then yeah, I did that, and eventually I opened up another portal to another dimension, and another map is there. So yeah, there's some meat to this game. I've probably played it for around 4 hours, and I think it'll take another three to finish it. But yeah, it's not something I plan on platinuming, but it's definitely a fun game that I definitely plan on starting my reviews soon. Aside from that, I've been playing a lot of games that I can't talk about yet, but I am enjoying one demo. This was shown during the partner direct a few weeks ago. I'm playing the Adventures of Elliot. Definitely one of the lamest titles that Square Enix has come up with, but yeah, so far the game is really, really nice. I got to the maybe second save point. I don't know how much longer I have. But basically, it is a HD 2D action game, much in the vein of Secret of Mana. But as I'm playing it, it really feels more like a Zelda. There is some light puzzling involved. You have a fairy that follows you around throughout in battle. And it is really interesting just playing an HD 2D game, 2D action game, just because everything up to this point has been turn-based. So it's definitely been a breath of fresh air, especially considering the fact that aside from Octopath and the Dragon Quest remakes, there really hasn't been much to talk about aside from things that are like rehashes such as Live Alive. So yeah, it is nice to play something that's totally original that isn't talked about, even though that is coming. So I haven't gotten to the end yet, or the point where I have to like just go ahead and do the survey that Nintendo sends for the feedback. But aside from that, that's pretty much it.
All right, so yeah, let's get to some news. And we are at the point where the PlayStation Plus game catalog lineup was announced.
Yep.
That'll be arriving here on Tuesday the 19th. Yeah, it looks like the big thing they added here before the rest of the lineup is that there's a 5-hour PlayStation Plus premium game trial for Death Stranding 2. So if you have that, you can check out that game if you have not done so yet. So that's one you can check out. But for the game catalog itself, for extra and premium, we start off here with Mortal Kombat 1 for the PS5. And that is the latest game, not the first game. Just the way their numbering for all this has gone. This is the follow-up to Mortal Kombat 11. A game that I've heard good things about, but I have not played it myself. So yeah,
Haven't been able to play it either myself, but I am glad I'll finally be able to do that.
Yeah, it seems like the Mortal Kombat game with the most fan service to it.
Yep.
Which is saying a lot.
Yeah, that's saying a lot.
So yeah, there you go for that. For PS5 and PS4, Marvel's Spider-Man returns to PlayStation Plus. Yeah, you get the remastered version on PS5 and the Game of the Year edition on PS4. So there you go. That's well worth checking out if you have not done so yet. Then the other big release for the catalog here for PS5 is Sword of the Sea. The newest game from Giant Squid, I believe. They made previously Abzu, The Pathless, and most of the people, or most of the leadership of the team worked on Journey,
Mm-hmm.
mostly on the art side. But this seems like another game that is channeling a lot of that, where you are doing a lot of surfing on the sea in the desert.
Yep.
It seems like you can kind of surf on your sword a lot through the desert, and
Mm-hmm.
you'll have water show up at times, and other times just surfing on the desert sands and all that, and having fish and all that happening around. But yeah, you're also doing tricks and all this kind of stuff. It seems like a wild idea for a game, so I'm very curious
Mm-hmm.
to see that one in action. There's that. Then for PS5 and PS4, Earth the Force Fence 6.
Yep.
That looks pretty neat if you want your big, silly bug killing game.
Yep.
This is one of those you can check out.
Mm-hmm.
Another big one here for PS5 and PS4 is Unicorn Overlord.
Mm-hmm.
From the devs of 13 Sentinels, Aegis Rim, Odin Sphere, Dragon's Crown,
Yep.
Vanillaware has their newest game that is a turn-based tactical RPG.
Yeah.
Taking their talents to the kind of Final Fantasy Tactics realm.
Yeah. If you, for all those who have not played it, it was one of my games of the year. So yeah, you absolutely need to play it. It is amazing.
Yeah. Let's see, for PS5 and PS4, Atelier Ryza 3, Alchemists of the End, and The Secret Key. That's the third game in that trilogy of the girl that's... The main thing I've heard is people complaining that she's thick, and I'm like, she's not thick.
Yeah.
She's just anime girl with a little more meat on her than
Yeah.
your typical anime girl.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's one of those games you can check out. Then for PS5, Indica, an indie horror game that's got a lot of buzz last year,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you are in deep with the kind of Catholic religion, at least knowing a lot about that. This plays into a lot of the Catholic guilt kind of stuff.
Oh yeah. And it's also just like really, really weird.
Yeah.
Legitimately, like you never know like what type of game you're playing, like from minute to minute. It changes so frequently. It's also,
Yeah.
I have been told, extremely funny as well.
Yeah. It knows how to play off of the strangeness of Catholicism, and
Mm-hmm.
like your whole thing is you're playing this like young girl who's like an aspiring nun, and she starts hearing the devil talk to her, and that causes her to get into a bunch of weird situations. Some which are scary and some that are making fun of things. So yeah, there's that. Also for PS5, Harold Halibut,
Mm-hmm.
uh, a claymation style adventure game. I
Mm-hmm.
played a decent bit of this on Game Pass, and it's very fun. But it also is just kind of a thing that keeps going.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I played a good 3-4 hours of it, and then just never went back to it.
Mm.
Not really for any real negative reason, just like didn't have the time to kind of keep going with it.
Mm-hmm.
But it looks really good, so that's a cool part of it. And also for PS5, Coral Island.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it's another one of those kind of farming sim games. But you're set on an island, like a tropical island, I guess. So dealing with coral reefs and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that looks neat. And that's it for your main lineup. For the premium only stuff, the classic stuff, it is what got announced a couple months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Resident Evil 2 and 3 for the PS1.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like OG Resident Evil 2, no director's cut or anything like that.
Nope. So just get ready for tank controls. That's all I was going to say.
Yeah, and then yeah, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis is the original version. So yeah,
Yeah. don't get me wrong, those OG games can still legit be super scary.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't know how, but somehow those old like polygonal Resident Evil games, despite how like rough the control schemes are, those games are still legit very spooky. I don't know why, or how it's held up as that well, but it does.
Yeah. So yeah, there you go. That's your lineup for the month, and a very good lineup. A lot of interesting stuff here.
Yep.
Anything here you want to check out, Brandon?
Well, obviously, Mortal Kombat 1 is the big one. Like, I've been wanting to play that game for a while. I just never had the money to do it or get around to it, but now I can, and that's awesome. Probably going to look Sword of the Sea into, because Absu is a pretty good game as well. I've already played Spider-Man, so, you know. And I've also already played, Unicorn Overlord too. But don't let anybody not play those on my regard, because both of those games are amazing. Yeah, like as far as like that stuff is concerned, yeah, I'm definitely want to play those. And also Indica. Yeah, like Indica is a game I've wanted to play for a while. It's just other stuff either is there or I just couldn't get around to it. But that game is like I've known for a while that game is just straight up bizarre in just the best way possible. And of course but I might go back into some of the older Resident Evil games. It would be nice. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
How about you, Dan Rib?
Yeah, this is actually quite a stellar month. There are games I have played, obviously Spider-Man, and Atelier Ryza. That's a game that, is one of the most popular in the Atelier series, probably the most popular for the reason Chris mentioned. The whole thick thing. I do think her thighs are a little thicker than usual as far as anime characters, but no, nothing that major. Anyway, that's also a game that made me decide that the Atelier series isn't for me, just because a lot of the potion making just really made the game ridiculously complicated, even though everything else about the game is pretty simplistic. And I don't know, it was just hard for me to get into, and I don't think it'll ever work out for me. That being said, Unicorn Overlord is a game that I've always been wanting to try, and now I don't have to directly pay for it. So that's something I definitely want to give a chance. I don't know if I'll have the time to do it, but there's that. I probably will give Mortal Kombat 1 a chance, though. That's another game that I've wanted to try. It hasn't really lasted as far as keeping the attention. But I do like me some Mortal Kombat every once in a while, and I might dive into that. But yeah, we'll see if we have time. The highlight, though, definitely sort of this. I love games like Journey and Abzu, and the whole thing about turning your sword into a skateboard just looks like a lot of fun to me. So I'm looking forward to trying that one.
All right, so yeah, let's get to some more subscription news. This time on Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack. As they've added they're going to add a new GameCube game to the lineup. And it is Chibi Robo, Plug into Adventure. For the GameCube, sort of one of their very underrepresented games for the GameCube. I feel like it was one of their smaller games that kind of came out. Probably didn't get very many copies printed, so most people probably didn't get a chance to check it out. And yeah, it'll be added on the 21st, so that'll be Thursday, I think. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I've not played this one. I played the 3DS game, though that is more of a 2D puzzle platformer thing. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah, this one, if you're someone that follows like Nintendo going back to the GameCube, as Chris mentioned, it's a little bit more niche. It did come out in America. That being said, if you didn't get it back then, it's pretty much impossible to get now. On eBay, it usually sells for over $150, so super inaccessible. So I imagine once this comes out, we're going to see the prices drop significantly. And this game is good.
It is.
If you're someone that enjoys Pikmin and you want to see the charm of everything Nintendo did as far as like their little miniature characters and art style, this is definitely one to look at. And it's a GameCube game, so it hasn't really aged that much as far as visuals. Like these games are still fully playable, and you don't have to worry about problems that persist on the PSX or a game, or I'm not sorry, the PlayStation and N64. So yeah, definitely this is one to look out for, and this is easily one that uh, you'll want just based on the fact that you can't get it anymore.
Yeah. So yeah, that's one you can check out later this week. Let's see what else we got for dates here. Yeah, we got a bunch here for September. This one is one I'm looking forward to. Clover Pit is going to be out September 3rd. This is a slot machine game, but set in like an enclosed space so that you're basically earning money to pay off your debts for the round, and anything you have left, you put back into the slot machine, or buying, using other currencies you get to buy perks and such to make your chances of making more money, better and all that. And yeah, there's a bit of demonry going on here. As you get to see, they make jokes about hitting 666 on the slot machine and that kind of stuff. Definitely like a demon that is waiting for you to fail so they can drop you from this room into like a, I don't know, crusher or something to kill you kind of thing. So I'm curious to check this one out. I'm probably going to see if I can get a code for it, but this one looks really neat. And that's just on Steam at the moment. So, but I also do like the PS1 level of graphics on this. So yeah, if you're into the sort of nonsense spins on gambling games turn into roguelites, this seems like another good one to check out.
Yeah, it looks pretty neat. I'd like to at least give it a shot.
Yeah, there should be a demo, so you can check it out.
All right.
One you can check out now.
Put that in my notes then.
So yeah, there's that. And if you're wondering if something special is going to happen on September 9th this year, there is. It is the release of Bubsy in the Perfect Collection.
I still ask myself why.
Yeah.
Like I do not understand why they're constantly trying to bring this franchise back. Because with the very small exception of the first game, they're all terrible.
Yeah.
Like the first game was just middling at best. Like it was a rent title.
Yeah.
Bubsy 2 was even worse, and Bubsy 3D is like notoriously considered one of the worst games ever produced.
Yeah.
I do wonder, like, obviously Brandon's like saying why. I do wonder if they're even like making any sort of problem game. Like they keep trying to bring it back, and they have to be bringing it back for a reason, aside from maybe making a new one. And I would not care if we get to that point, but I don't know. There has to be some money in that well, because I don't get.
Yeah. This is being published by Atari and Limited Run Games, and it seems like they very much know that there is an audience there. I'm looking at the store version of this. You get physical editions for $35, which seems pretty decent price. Then they start having deluxe editions starting at $70. Let's see, that gets you a 2-sided poster, a 1-disc soundtrack, a keychain in the game with a special box art on it. And there's a $150 edition. Let me see what's got here. Okay, a lot of stuff. Yeah, another double-sided poster, the multi-disc soundtrack, different keychain, a low-poly Bubsy 3D figure. Yeah, spinning ball of yarn pin.
Yeah.
Hardcover museum art and design book. Individually numbered certificate of authenticity. Oh, and the other keychain's also here. So, yeah, and you get a nice little box to put it in. I feel like part of this is just there's an audience that likes these games. I don't know why. this would be one that you would want to, but they're also very much doing pre-orders. They're doing the limited runs thing, so taking pre-orders for about 2 months, and that'll probably be all they produce of this. So, but I also do think it's important to also, with these kind of collections, is to draw off bad games too.
Yeah. I mean, you could say that at least for like game preservation purposes, it's at least good in that sense.
Yeah.
But like that's like saying like, an important part of kidney health is passing, a kidney stone. So
yeah. But I also think there's interesting things about it because like Bubsy 3D was released by a studio that would become Bend Studio and make the Siphon Filter games.
Yep.
And it's like that is a fascinating part of its history.
It also is like for a fascinating part in like the history of 3D platformers, because I'm pretty sure doesn't this game like at least its development predate Super Mario 64?
I don't know. You might be thinking of Croc.
Well, I know Croc was like an early example. Like, okay, let's see. The game came out. It came out in 1996. Let's see. Super Mario 64 came out in the same year. So, and I think, let's see, Super Mario 64 released on, let's see, of June of, well, it came out in North America on September 29th, and this came out November. So it actually did like come out after Super Mario 64, but it was basically like one of the first 3D platformers to be developed at a time when Super Mario 64 essentially became like the definitive sort of standard that most 3D platformers would follow afterwards. But there was like this sort of point when like the genre was just in utero, and they were still trying to figure out like how this was going to work. And you had that. You also had Croc, like was previously mentioned. You had Bugs. I think it was Bug or whatever it was, that cricket game that was for like the Saturn, I think.
Yeah.
That was like the first of like arguably the first 3D platformer to go to market. That wasn't a jagged mess like you would see on the Super NES. But that one it was like the entirety was only like the cardinal directions. You couldn't go diagonal or anything. And so you suddenly had Bubsy 3D, and it was terrible.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much all you really need to know. It was terrible. It was painful, literally, to play. There was like there was no distance tracking to speak of. It was like all fogged over. The graphics were ugly. The soundtrack was ugly. The character did not shut up ever, and he spoke entirely in this scratchy, high-pitched voice the whole time.
Yeah.
It is physically painful to play that game.
Yeah. And it looks like they've added full analog controls to Bubsy 3D.
Mm-hmm.
And I assume worked on some bugs a little bit there. But they also have cheats, so you can turn on some cheats to make it more friendly to people just wanting to see what's in the game versus playing it on its own merits. I assume it has rewind and that kind of stuff, and save states and all that. So yeah, it does have all that. So yeah, like decent enough ways to play this. I wouldn't buy this at launch at all. I would let it go on sale for a bit. But yeah, they're interesting games, especially because Bubsy is clearly a Sonic knockoff. With a lot of what it's doing there, with a lot of momentum-based platforming. It doesn't necessarily work all that well, but it did decent enough. But I guess the creator left for the successive games, and those were bad. They came back for Bubsy 3D and obviously saved everything. So yeah. But yeah, there you go. That's September 9th.
I will say that Bubsy at least has more street cred than Gex, at least in my opinion.
Maybe. I feel like Gex was a fairly big deal for the PS1 generation.
For the early years of the PS1, it was definitely.
Um, though if you look at like the releases of those games, I think each game debuted on different platforms.
Yep.
I think PS1 was the only one uh, on all of them, but it debuted on the Saturn. Then the second game was mainly a PS1 game, and then they made a N64 edition for the third one. And it's like, that's weird.
Yep.
But yeah. But yeah, let's get to some more stuff here. There's Lego Voyagers finally has a date of September 15th. This is the sequel to Lego Builder's Journey. And this one features a 2-player co-op mode in it, so you can play with a friend, kid, sibling, whatever, on this, and check it out. And it's also being published by Annapurna Interactive, so that's cool to see as well. So yeah.
Yeah, this is a game that was probably one of my favorites during the Summer Game Fest showcase, and I felt like it sort of like fell down by the wayside. But it's good that it's coming out this year. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, it looks like it has the Friends Pass thing, so you can have somebody play with you without having to spend money on it. So that's cool, especially for a Lego game.
Yep.
And let's see here. The next day, on the 16th, Henry Halfhead will be out. It'll be out on PS5, Switch, and PC. This is that neat-looking, adventure game that I believe is made by a British studio, featuring Henry Halfhead, who's half a head, basically nose and up, eyes and ears, basically, and he just kind of flops around as you go and do things, and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, seems like you transform into different objects, so that's neat. I have the demo on Steam. I just have not had a chance to start it yet, but that's cool. It looks like it's going to be a fun little game.
Yeah, this was something that I played at GDC, but like I had no idea what I was doing. The attendant there was in the middle of an interview, so I couldn't really ask anybody. But I'm assuming that it's all havoc and chaos, and yeah, looking forward to it. This is a game that we're probably gonna go for, so looking forward to it.
Yeah, this will be $12.99 at launch, so not too much money there. Okay, yeah, it looks like the developer's from Switzerland, so not too far off. Like similar sensibilities there. Then on the 19th of September, Ratatan will be out in early access on PC. So people will be able to finally get to playing that, as they delayed it from July 25th, noting that there were a number of issues they wanted to address before they launch into early access, and so they've supposedly made a bunch of progress on that. So I'm looking forward to seeing this, as I backed it on Kickstarter. So I'm excited to see how the latest build will be looking like. So yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, we have a preview up on SmashPad. It was also one of my favorite games at SGF. Looking forward to seeing how that early access build goes, but at the same time, the 19th is a very rough date for me. You know, we got Trails in the Sky first chapter, we got Toa and the Guardians of the Sacred Tree, and now we have it is crowded.
Yeah, and then on the 23rd here, Blippo Plus will be out for Switch and PC. This is basically a cable TV simulator, I guess is the way they're calling it here. It's basically like I don't know, maybe a very weird TV program guide kind of thing. You're flipping through these channels. It's been on the Playdates for most of the summer, since like May 29th. It's a neat game thing. You basically roll through the channel guide and like pick a channel and kind of sit there, and it plays through a little video of whatever the current show is, and it might be something that lasts for a couple of minutes and goes to the next thing and that kind of stuff. And you have a few channels of video stuff, and then you have some other channels of like text, written, content kind of stuff. And it seems like this is a thing that's produced by an alien culture of sorts. Yeah, from the planet Blip. And see like them imitating things that you would have seen if you are like us and channel surfed at times and stopped on weird things that would be on the TV kind of stuff. And this is playing off of that in some really interesting ways. So yeah, this is one I've watched a bit on the Playdate, and it's weird to see it in color and all this. Because the Playdate obviously is like a 1-bit platform, so it's like, oh, I've seen some of this stuff, but looking like a weird like e-reader version of this. So seeing it all in color and kind of more clear is going to be an interesting thing to see how people take to it. But yeah, looks really neat. You want your weird thing to obsess about? There's that. So there's that. And that's it for the September dates. A bunch of stuff coming out throughout that month to add into the other things we've talked about on the release date preview of things that were happening. So that'll be fun to see. We got tier for the next thing, the PS4 and Xbox One versions of PUBG Battlegrounds are going to be shutting down on November 13th. And I believe at the same time we'll be launching native versions for the PS5 and Xbox Series X and S on that same day, as the old consoles are kind of wearing thin for games like this that are evolving and continuing to get updates that push things further ahead on that. So yeah, it looks like gonna look better, run better, probably feel better to play and all that. So that'll be fun to see. I just love the weird way that this game went, to the point where they turned PUBG into the brand. So now it's PUBG Battlegrounds, even though the BG in PUBG stands for
Battlegrounds, yeah.
So it's PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. But now PUBG is just the brand. So even though PlayerUnknown is making his own game now.
Yep.
Got a new thing that I think is going into open beta pretty soon. It's like a weird sandbox thing, but
yep.
He's probably made plenty of money selling this off to Krafton. So yeah, there you go. Some more reason to jump into PUBG on the consoles now. So there you go. Let's see. Also happening here. Let's see. Yeah, also in November, a week later, R-Type Delta HD boosted. They added so much to the name there. Will finally be out November 20th in the West. This is the same day as the Japanese release date that they announced a little bit ago. So that'll be on PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, and PC, which is cool to see. This is the PS1 release of R-Type that didn't really get too much traction. There wasn't really any like sequels or anything, I believe, to that game. They're just kind of like, here's like a 2.5D R-Type game on the PS1, and it's pretty neat, but not as good as the original R-Type or anything. But they've gone back and remastered it, and yeah, you get to what else did they add here? Yeah, it's new HD visuals, new opening movie, remixed soundtrack, a bunch of quality of life features. So that's cool. Yeah, bunch of stuff here. So yeah, that's cool. That's one you can check out. And then let's see. I think that's it for dates. We do have one more delay. Ease versus Trails in the Sky Alternative Saga has been delayed, quote, by a few months. Falcom announced here. No idea what that means, but probably be either at the end of this year or early next year.
Yep.
But yeah, this is the fighting game that was created quite a while ago, but is finally getting a Western release.
Mm-hmm.
Probably mostly because Ease and Trails have gotten much bigger since when this game was originally made. So
Mm-hmm.
seems like they found some reason to bring it over at this
Yep.
point. So got to wait a bit longer for that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a bit of a puzzling delay. I played a build over at Holiday Matsuri at the end of last year, and for those of you that aren't aware, this game is pretty much just uh, a brawler, much in the vein of something like uh, what's that dream? Kind of like Power Stone.
Ah.
It's kind of like that, but you use East and Trails characters. But at the time, the only Trails games that was out was the Sky games, and you did have characters like Lloyd in them from the Crossbell duology, but that hadn't come out yet. This game is actually built on the E7 engine, and E7 was quite a bit ago. So that's why most of the characters there are going to be from games prior to E7. And yeah, like it's a pretty fun crossover. But like that being said, there really isn't much to write home about here. It is fun at times, but it's not something that'll like last people a bit. So like I don't know. I don't know what's causing them to delay anything aside from maybe the translation. But this has also been fan translated for a while. So yeah, I wonder if it's just because I've never heard of Refint as a publisher. I don't know what they've done before. So maybe they're just going through a lot of the hardships that a lot of publishers are trying to do. Because yeah, like this is not really anything that anybody asked for, but it's still good that it's coming.
Yeah. So yeah, that's fun. Yeah, Refint looks like they have done a little bit of localizing publishing. They publish, let's see, Twofold that's coming out to Switch sometime this year, if it isn't already out. And also published Toho Artificial Dream in Arcadia. It seems like it's also coming to Switch and PS4 and PS5, so this might be them kind of starting to exist
Mm-hmm.
as sort of a localizer slash publishing company. Since that's a game that probably or definitely isn't one that Falcom or NISA are like putting any money into or
Mm-hmm.
big money into. They're probably the sort of company that can come in with a little bit of money and maybe make that work. So
Mm-hmm.
especially as like a more competitive game that doesn't need a ton of localization.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there you go. Let's see. Next up here, we got an announcement. This Playstack, publisher of Balatro and a number of other games,
Mm-hmm.
have announced that they are publishing a new game from a studio called Dorakun.
Mm-hmm.
This is called Racoin, Coin Pusher Roguelike.
Mm-hmm.
That is exactly what the title says. It is a coin pusher roguelike, taking that kind of coin pusher style of game and making a roguelike out of it. They're going to be having a playtest here on Monday
Mm-hmm.
that you can sign up for now to get into. Though I got a code from the developer or from Playstack. They're like, oh, you might want to check this out a little bit early. And I was playing some of this, and yeah, it is exactly what it says here. You're kind of getting these coins coming in, and as you are trying to knock off enough to get to meet what the round needs, so it might be like 20 coins, whatever it is. And once you do that, you can immediately go to the shop between rounds for the next round. And you can buy up a bunch of these coins that you collect on the side that can be used as extra coins to throw into the mix. That have their own like perks and things that they do. You get little trinkets that are also things that can get you more points or coins or whatever out of them. You get little, I don't know what they're called, like little like consumables that you can use that can do more things. Like some of them can just whatever you throw them will pick up a bunch of coins into the air and kind of throw them around. well as a handful of other things. Been easy for the first few runs I've been doing, which might just be on an easier difficulty. But there's a lot of weird stuff going on here that is pretty neat. I had one trinket that essentially let me every like 20 coins I knocked off, I could just shake the entire machine and knock a bunch more coins in. That made it really easy to kind of get to the next goal, kind of thing. But the coins are shooting into it are coming at the back side, and you can shoot both at the same time, so they kind of hit each other and meet in the middle, or you can just shoot them from one side or the other to get them over to the other side of the field and kind of knock stuff down. At some points, it might just build like a coin tower that you can potentially knock over and get a bunch of coins that way. There's all a bunch of weird stuff going on here, and it also has a really nice art style to it because it's kind of doing it as a 3D game, but it's kind of doing a very low res version of that almost. They're putting a nice filter over it that looks pretty neat. So this one has definitely gotten on my radar a lot. But yeah, if you want to check it out on Steam, you can sign up for the playtest and see what it is, see how you like it early on before launch at some point. So yeah, this is one that looks really nice.
Looks interesting. I'll give it that.
Yeah. So yeah, there's that. I'll probably do a video for that this week. But yeah, let me see what else we got here. Oh yeah, Nexon announced a new game called Wuchi the Wayfarer. And this is basically an action adventure game, basically set in the Korean fantasy universe. Instead of all these, ones in the Chinese fantasy universe, we got one in Korea. So that's pretty cool. Describing this as a high-end PC and console action adventure game set in traditional Korean culture and mythology. So yeah, pick the adventures of Dosa, John Wuchi of the Mage of the Way fame. Yeah, coming to PlayStation, Xbox, and Steam. Whenever it's ready to launch, maybe next year or the year after. I don't know exactly when they're going to be ready, but that looks neat. Always good to see more games like this coming out about more cultures. So there you go.
Yeah. It definitely looks neat. I mean it looks interesting, but I mean it's still just mostly cutscenes, so
yeah. But yeah, there you go. Want to keep an eye on. We'll get to industry news here. We got a bunch of it. Blackbird Interactive announced that they acquired full ownership of the Hard Space Shipbreaker IP from Focus Entertainment, which is really cool to see because yeah, this was a great game, Hard Space Shipbreaker, a few years ago, and there really hasn't been much else done with it. So I think like the studio was able to pull up enough money to buy the full rights back from Focus, and they have announced they are working on multiple hard space projects in active development. So maybe a sequel with maybe some other kind of projects going on here. But yeah, they've opened registration for what they're calling the Lynx Pioneer Program, which seems like a community project thing that they can get probably feedback from the community and all that. And I believe they've also opened up a Discord and some other stuff for that. So got some ways for people to support them for the initial time being. But yeah, I'd like to see another hard space game at some point because yeah, that first one was a really good game. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's I'm glad that Blackbird, they're the developers of the game, weren't they? Yeah, so I'm glad they've got the IP back themselves. And I'm glad because, I mean, it just if nothing else, for thematic reasons. I mean, you and me, we've both played that game.
Yeah.
Like, labor disputes are, like, built into it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's about capitalism.
Yep.
And how it robs people of their humanity.
Yep.
And so nice to see that they've essentially bought their property back from the publisher that was, making most of the money off of it. So it's good to see.
Yeah.
Wishing them the best. Next up here, story that was going around a bit here from Mark Dara, formerly one of the top people at BioWare, who had talked about that they had pitched a remaster of the original Dragon Age, if not like a trilogy remaster of the first 3 games, to EA a number of times, but always got shot down. What they called a soft pitch, which is probably mostly just like, hey, what do you think about doing a remaster of these games? And they're like, no. Which seems like the EA thing, because they have not really done very many remasters of games. I was trying to think of this earlier, and it's like, there's Burnout Paradise, there's Need for Speed, Hot Pursuit 2, and then there's the Mass Effect trilogy, and that's kind of it.
Yeah.
Dead Space.
That's a remake. Full remake.
Yeah, the first was a remake.
That's true. Yeah.
I can think of a couple of reasons why they weren't able really to get a Dragon Age, like a remastered compilation off the ground. Is first and foremost, if they did that, they would essentially have to do like what they did when they did the collection for the first Mass Effect game, which was basically have to remake the whole game from the ground up. Which, I mean, that's not entirely... I mean, they showed that they could do it with what the first Mass Effect game ended up showing up like. All they had to do was, port the characters from, the models from the third game into this game and sort of, but then at the same time, they had to, like, redo a bunch of the environments and stuff. Also, it's just because, like, gameplay-wise, Dragon Age Origins is, like, completely different from the later ones, because Dragon Age Origins was originally supposed to be like their spiritual successor to Baldur's Gate, but like an original IP. And the reason it ended up kind of turning more into like an action RPG that it did is because largely because kind of they were that second game. Anybody who knows Dragon Age 2 was a very rushed product. It was still pretty good for what it was, but like it's very obvious that they were working on a very strict timetable, because there's like a lot of reused environments. The overall game world is a lot more condensed to just like a single overall location. And just overall, like that, and then, that compare that, like, really the major, like, difference of gameplay between, like, what was between Dragon Age Origins and Dragon Age 2, between Mass Effect 1 and Mass Effect 2, Mass Effect 1 and Mass Effect 2 basically still more or less play the same. It's just they add some additional limitations to it. Dragon Age 2 and Dragon Age Origins are almost completely different games entirely.
Yeah. You can definitely see like the influence that Mass Effect 2 had on Dragon Age 2.
Yeah, definitely. And just overall, it'd be, if they did end up remaking Dragon Age Origins, honestly, they probably would have had to redo the gameplay as well, for it to really just make sense. I know they want to, like, the other issue is that, unlike with the Mass Effect games, the like big world choices that you make in that game aren't really as major going forward from game to game as it is, mostly because you're playing different protagonists in the game, especially with the first Dragon Age, because you can straight up, like, have like completely different origin stories for like every different type of character. That means you'll literally start the game in different parts of it. In Mass Effect, you're Commander Shepard. You're always Commander Shepard, period. In Dragon Age, you're three different people in that trilogy. And the effects that one has on the other game aren't as wide ranging as they are in Mass Effect. Also, just to be completely honest, compared to Mass Effect, it was um, always the bigger money getter as well.
Yeah.
Like Dragon Age Inquisition still did really well, but it still like paled in comparison to the numbers that Mass Effect was pulling.
Yeah, I think it's been pretty well reported that EA's pretty much been indifferent with everything towards Dragon Age. That being said, story aside, pitching is hard.
Oh
Pitching
yeah.
pitching a publisher is really hard. Pitching EA is even harder. I mean, they are sitting on a gold mine of IP, much like a lot, but EA more so than a lot of other companies is really reliant on just how they craft their message and how they're going to be pretty tactical in regards to bringing back IP or remastering things. And like the biggest examples I can give here are Skate and college football. Like these are games that pretty much disappeared into the aether, but it was undeniable that that everybody wanted these back somehow in some way. And college football was obviously hard. They didn't work with the NCAA anymore for very many reasons, and you can't really blame EA for that. And then with Skate, the skate genre sort of fell down. So it's really interesting seeing what Tony Hawk is able to bring in as far as numbers. But yeah, like whenever they bring something back, they definitely want to own the story, especially with social. Like something that I've been told in the past is like, yeah, if there's going to be like some sort of like hashtag marketing that's totally out of EA's hands, then they'll definitely pay attention. So that would help. And Dragon Age, unfortunately, is not there. So
Yeah. And another thing they mentioned here is that the engines are different between the two Bioware franchises. All the Mass Effects are on Unreal Engine, which probably helps a lot in doing more to that. But yeah, the first
Yeah.
two Dragon Age games are on their internal Eclipse engine
Mm-hmm.
before making Inquisition on Frostbite, which probably make it a bit tougher to kind of get those all into one package and improving them, especially for an engine that they hadn't touched in a while with that Eclipse engine. But yeah, this is kind of one of those things that would have probably been nice to have between Inquisition and Veilguard at some point, but probably the money part of it doesn't check out for them.
No, not right now, anyway.
Yeah. But yeah, there you go. Let's get to the culture war part of the show, the Chinese culture war.
At
As
least.
Wuchang Fallen Feathers got a big update here that's on all versions of the game that basically changed the story significantly. So that's the kind of core conceit of the game is that you're fighting a lot of like historic figures
Yeah.
in Chinese history that you kill them and kind of move on to the next one. And with this update, they ended up changing it so that you talk to them a bit after you beat them, and then they just kind of go to sleep and disappear instead of being killed. Particularly because it seems like the big thing is that this became sort of a culture war thing in China. That despite it not even being released in China or anything, this is kind of such a wild thing to see. But yeah, this is kind of one of those things that there's definitely a notable amount of people in China that don't like any of their history being messed with in any way in media. And despite this being like sort of a fantastical history kind of retelling thing, that they're still ended up getting affected by these people in a way that unfortunately makes the game worse for people, though from what I've heard, it's also not going to change too much. It's not like it changes the story as a whole. It's just the way that you
Mm,
dispatch with these bosses
yeah.
just kind of uh, just falls flat essentially,
Mm-hmm.
which is a negative for the game. But for the most part, what you're doing in this game, it's not a big deal. But yeah, it's just sort of like censoring your own game, not a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it just leads to this weird whole thing that at least like already on the PC version, there's been a mod that undoes this update.
Mm-hmm.
So people there, or if you bought it on a physical edition, you have the version of the game before this update, and so you can kind of play it as is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's one bonus perk of having the physical edition, but yeah, it's kind of one of those things where like, yeah, we had a Assassin's Creed set here in uh Revolutionary War era of the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
and involving a lot of historical figures. I mean, most of those games have historical figures of
Yeah.
note in them that you fuck around with, or they change to fit the narrative of the game, kind of
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
And nobody really bats an eye on that stuff. I'm sure there's some people are like, well, why does this have to happen? And it's like
Mm-hmm.
because it's a made up story.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a game that's very much an unfortunate thing to have happen.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
so there you go.
Yeah, it's definitely a bizarre story. I am definitely all for cultural sensitivity, but yeah, censoring to this magnitude is pretty nuts, especially with a game that didn't come out in that place to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that was like something planned, but yeah, this is pretty bad, especially if you're somebody who beat the game or got through these parts and all of a sudden you turn it on. And I don't know if patches actually affected anything with the
Mm-hmm.
story and whatnot, but like not being able to kill a, a key boss because of reasons like this, yeah, it kind of does change the plot because with these Souls like games, like they're a big part of the enamor with them. Um,
Mm.
I haven't played this just because I suck at these, but yeah, I understand the anger. If you ask me, like the people who want to return the game or refund the game are totally validated here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but yeah, there you go. Some weird story stuff there. Yeah, let's see what else we got here. I have some IGN news.
Mm-hmm.
John Davison, who is sort of the head of IGN Entertainment, has left after being there for about 5 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, he left as of Monday, saying it was the time for the next chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Which is not really a surprise for John Davison because I feel like he doesn't stay at any one place for very long.
Mm-hmm.
A handful of years, but if you go look up his like history, he was at EGM for like 2 or 3 years. Then went over to OPM, which were
Mm-hmm.
all owned by the same company, but he went there for 4 or 5 years, then moved over to GameSpot. I was there for a few years and then left to IGN. There's other stuff in between there,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, uh, IGN's worse for leaving or for losing him, but yeah, it's not
Yeah.
really a huge surprise, and I don't know that this is directly related to any of these layoff things, but I'm sure it didn't help. But yeah, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, John's definitely a big name in the gaming space. To be honest, I actually did not know he was at IGN, but I've known him in his days with GameSpot and OPM and all that. So that is interesting. But yeah, as you mentioned, like he's been everywhere. He doesn't stay at one place too long. And if you ask me, this is one of those things. But yeah, it's tough to see where IGN is going trajectory now. But also they are an international company, so I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't say they're going anywhere soon, but it does suck to lose someone, infamous, if you will.
Yeah. So yeah, a few more stories here. Next up here, PayPal is part of the Steam Not Safe for Work fuck fest,
Mm-hmm.
whatever you want to call it. So they are a more substantial part of this because it seems like, as it's mentioned here in early July 2025, PayPal notified Valve that they're acquiring bank for payment transactions in certain currencies, was immediately terminating the processing of any transactions related to Steam.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, people outside of these six currencies, are no longer able to use PayPal for Steam purchases.
Mm-hmm.
Ones that are still there are the ones you probably expect:
Mm-hmm.
the euro, the Canadian dollar, the British pound, the Japanese yen, the Australian dollar, and the US dollar.
Yeah.
They say here, we hope to offer PayPal. This is from Valve. We hope to offer PayPal as an option for these currencies in the future, but the timeline is uncertain. We are also evaluating adding additional payment methods on Steam for the customers affected by this.
Mm-hmm.
There's no explanation immediately for why they were making these changes. But yeah, Valve seemed to confirm that these were related to the ongoing censorship campaign.
Yeah.
Let's see, saying here, this is the loss of payment processing support by one of PayPal's banking partners is regarding content on Steam
Mm-hmm.
related to what we've previously commented on surrounding MasterCard. In this case, one of PayPal's acquiring banks decided to stop processing any Steam transactions, which cut off PayPal on Steam for a number of currencies.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is one of those things where if you are a Steam user in these other countries,
Mm-hmm.
you end up having to see what other options there may be, or just finding a means to acquiring Steam
Mm-hmm.
cards or whatever. People like to use PayPal because it's like an additional layer of security between
Mm-hmm.
their, bank cards and the storefronts.
Yeah.
And for other places, it was one of the only options they may have. So
Mm-hmm.
just more of that stuff. So yeah, PayPal is pretty much off limits on Steam for most parts of the world. So
Mm-hmm.
that's unfortunate.
That sucks.
Yep.
And I have to remind people this whole thing literally started from like this tiny little group in Australia that likes to mask itself in the gauze of feminism, when in reality it is an evangelical Christian organization that is attempting to impose itself on the rest of the global population. They have seemingly found, and it's not, to be completely fair, I mean, I say fair, but completely honest, be factual. The playbook they're using is not new. This very thing actually happened with another organization a few years ago, where they were specifically targeting the sites like Pornhub, specifically. And if you ever noticed, like their Pornhub had like this huge like purge of like their entire line of like amateur performers and content makers who then had to re-register with the with the company, with the website, because this one group had essentially used fears of like human trafficking to essentially blackmail them into doing it. Now that is not me denying that human trafficking is something that doesn't happen in the sex industry, because it absolutely does. But the group that was doing this was essentially doing it because, once again, they were this evangelical Christian group that was trying to impose themselves on the world's population. That ended up eventually backfiring, because eventually, the Pornhub just sort of changed their business practices a bit. And ultimately, this will largely fail as well. There is enough grassroots rage at this group and what they're doing that a lot of these various payment companies and banks are now kind of having to scramble to figure out what they're going to do going forward. Yeah.
Yeah. It this whole thing has sort of made the banking system and like the payment processing systems that you just take for granted seem like much more of a shit show than you really expect. Uh, which has probably been more of a known thing in people outside of the main big countries, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, kind of wild just seeing that like somebody decides they don't like whatever's going on here and they're just like, we're done. And so no longer can use certain payment methods.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, that's fucked. But yeah. We'll see if there's any good news on this stuff in the future.
Yeah, we'll see.
But yeah, let's get to our last two stories here involving Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
First up here, Blizzard's story and franchise development division has voted to unionize.
Yep.
Joining nearly 3,000 workers at Microsoft-owned studios who've organized with the Communications Workers of America.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The workers strongly voted in favor of union representation, either by signing a union authorization card or indicating that they wanted union representation by an online portal. Microsoft has recognized the union. This team works on all the in-house cinematics, animation, narrative team, producing trailers, videos, cutscenes, and other narrative content for Blizzard franchises. So yeah, we wish them all the luck in getting a fair deal, which may take a few years.
Yep.
We've seen other unions in Microsoft do that. So there you go. Good to see.
Yep. Good to see.
This last one is also a union story. The STJV union members at Arkane Studios in France have joined the Palestinian-led BDS movement, boycott, divestment, sanctions movement, in calling for their parent company, Microsoft, to end its support for an Israeli regime, saying that they want Microsoft to stop being an accomplice in to genocide in Gaza. Particularly, there's been a lot of reporting lately about how Microsoft is heavily involved in a lot of the things that are going on in Gaza. Particularly, here mentions of let's see, this one in the Guardian involves Microsoft's CEO Satya Nadella meeting with the commander of Israel's military surveillance unit or agency unit 8200. Meeting about moving vast amounts of top secret intelligence material into the U.S. company's cloud. This was in late 2021, before this most recent stuff has been going for the last couple of years. But yeah, that they have been fully integrated into Microsoft's Azure cloud platform, and using that to essentially build a huge mass surveillance tool that can collect and store recordings of millions of phone calls made each day by Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank. They would use that to, I believe, use their AI stuff to pour through that data and find information that can lead to places they should attack and all that kind of fun stuff.
Yep.
And how kind of heavily involved Microsoft is in this, though they've acted like they aren't and have responded by being like, oh, we have had no idea what's going on here. We're going to do an investigation and all this. And it's like, yeah, that seems exactly like the thing I would expect them to say. That is a whole thing. Microsoft earlier this year said an external review found no evidence to date that Azure or its AI products have been used to target or harm people in Gaza, which is like, sure, we'll see. But yeah, now one of their more notable studios have, or union studios have, made this big show of support for the Palestinians in Gaza and wanting Microsoft to fully divest themselves of their support of Israel and all this. And yeah, very brave move for them to use, because Microsoft may very well respond to this by laying off all the people in this union as part of this, as they have done in the past. I believe this is the studio that is working on the Blade game, so they might be putting that project in trouble by doing that. So yeah, saying here very much, we think that Microsoft has no place being accomplice of a genocide, and as Microsoft employees, we don't want to be part of this sinister project for Gaza. Moreover, we think it's our responsibility as tech workers to raise the alarm and to ensure that our technologies are used to make the voices of the oppressed heard and not facilitate their demise. In a more direct manner, we think this could very well affect our life directly by reducing the audience for our games, thus directly compromising the viability of Xbox games, and in the long run, our very own jobs. Yeah. A very good statement to make. I don't know how much Microsoft is going to really react to this and do anything because of this one team, but maybe it will get others within Microsoft and in the Xbox group of teams to maybe speak out on their own. We'll see, but yeah, definitely all this reporting has made it very much more obvious how much Microsoft and their tools are just directly supporting the things going on in Gaza. It's very much made me want to maybe we'll stop talking about Game Pass stuff directly on this podcast, just not further involving in the marketing of those new editions and such. We'll talk about other things that are newsworthy, but yeah, direct marketing is gonna take a break for the time being. But yeah, this is one of those things we'll have to see what comes to this, but it's nice to see more people in the Microsoft company, as we've seen direct examples of people at meetings and whatnot calling out the leadership for their complicity and getting promptly fired pretty quickly, and with the claim that it wasn't because of that, it was because of other things, conveniently. But yeah, I don't know if you have anything to add, Brandon.
Nope, not really. Just once again, like we've been saying, it's the momentum is on the side of organized labor right now, and no matter how much the current government is trying to stymie it, and publicizing Microsoft's involvement in this stuff is very much needed.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's going to end up doing it for the show.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you to Brandon and Danner for joining this week.
Always.
No problem.
We'll be back for a new show next week with a new slate of news and maybe some more positive things to talk about. But yeah, let's see. What do we got coming out this week here? We got a decent amount of stuff. We got Delta Force is coming out to the consoles, Sword of the Sea, as we mentioned. Black Myth Wukong comes to the Xbox. Discounty is out. I played a little bit of the demo for that, and that seems neat. You're kind of running a shopping store kind of thing. That seems neat. Written Valor 1949. That's that like RTS roguelike game that also has VR support. That is neat looking. And Inazuma 11, Victory Road. I think it's out, or did that get delayed? It might have gotten delayed. Yeah, it's delayed to November. Okay. I'll have to update this list here, but yeah, some nice stuff coming out this week. But thank you all for tuning in. If you enjoy the show, for free to let friends and family know they should check out the podcast, and select strangers who are also excited for things that are coming out in the near future. So yeah, thank you all for tuning in, and thank you to Brandon and Danner for joining. We'll be back next week with a new show for some new fun and new games to talk about. So yeah, Thank you all for tuning in. Hope you have a good week ahead. We will see you all next time. Have a good one.
See you guys.
Bye.